Hi, everyone. Welcome to Module 5. Apologies for it being a day late. Had some two sick children to deal with yesterday, and we didn't get much of anything done other than wiping noses and administering children's Tylenol. Um, but I did want to stop in here and give you an overview video because this is kind of one of the more important weeks in terms of you're culminating in your first draft of your essay here. Uh, and so I'm inside of module 5. If you look here with the brief overview, it's pretty simple this week, honestly. The only assignment is your draft. You will have the entire week to work on that. And so I want to get right into it. So very basically, if you look at this page, which is, I guess, the first page in the Module 5 guide, this provides an outline of how your essay might look. Last week in Module 4, you worked on crafting a thesis statement and leading into an introductory paragraph that can serve as the introduction to this essay. We're building upon that, right? As we're analyzing your article. And so this is just kind of a generic outline for how your essay might go. As you see, it is sort of on the 5 paragraph model, which for this type of essay is pretty apropos. It's definitely acceptable to write about 5 paragraphs, is what this will probably end up being, with an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and then a concluding paragraph. And so make sure that you're following these key concepts as you're developing. We'll get into in a second what exactly you're writing about and how you're kind of framing this. And spoiler alert, you've been kind of adjusting and doing this work all along. So the work from modules 1 through 4 have kind of led you to think about the type of analysis you're going to be doing in this section, in this module, in this assignment. And then further reading in the textbook, chapters 4, 26, and 34, really hones in on organization, and then sort of how to develop your ideas and how to craft them into workable paragraphs. But I do want to provide sort of the main key work here, which is Module 5.1, analysis of a written work for a first audience. Remember, in a couple weeks, you're going to revise this for a different type of audience. You're going to keep your initial audience in mind from a couple weeks ago. So if we click on the guidelines and rubric here, this will give you a real clear direction on what you're supposed to be doing. So these are the things that you need to be identifying. And again, you're not going to have 8 individual paragraphs. You need to integrate them in within sort of 3 body paragraphs, etc. But we're going to identify the topic of the text. We're going to explain the writer's choices in relation to the genre of the text. We're going to describe the writer's purpose. If these look familiar, it's because we have talked about these things already. You've already done assignments with this. Feel free to look back on those assignments and sort of, as you're framing and revising into this complete essay, taking information from those paragraphs is totally acceptable. That's the point of this exercise. It's the reason why the course is set up this way, so that you're building information, you're building written words that you can then transition into this document in a cohesive manner. Okay, so if these things look familiar, that's because they are. You've already done part of this work. So go back to those assignments, check in on them, and make sure you're adjusting and making sure this is cohesive and makes sense as an essay. But feel free to use those selections from earlier in the term. All right, you're going to explain the writer's choices in relation to audience purpose and or the subject of the text. So what we're talking about there is the literal way the author is choosing to approach their subject, approach their audience, and how they're hoping to achieve their purpose. So what ways in which they're writing? Are they writing in an excited tone? Are they a joking manner? Are they more serious? Are they using technical terms that only a specific audience would use, etc.? Um, Determining the historical and cultural context of this text. So these, nothing written exists in a vacuum. They all exist in our products of their time. For instance, one of the articles has to do with sort of returning to work after COVID. That's a very specific historical moment. And so, it wouldn't have applied 30 years ago. It might not apply 20 years ago. It's sort of applies less now, right? So think about what the author was trying to do in that specific moment, right? And then the core idea of the text. So what is the purpose of the text? What exactly is the point, right? What is the author trying to articulate? What are you drawing from it as a reader, right? And then some details that are relevant to that core text. Be sure to cite from the article itself, pull information, either paraphrase or direct quotes from the article itself in support of your claims all the time. You need at least one quote here to support your analysis. And you can also have more as well. And so that is essentially it. Make sure you're taking a look at this rubric. This is the rubric that I use to grade your work. You basically have three categories on each of these criteria. You're either doing really great, you need improvement, or you did not attempt it. And that is what makes up the rest of your grade. Okay. So that is essentially it for this week. It's in a sense a simple week, but in terms of you only have one thing to do. And it is a culmination of the work we've been doing over the last 4 weeks. However, don't take this lightly. Make sure you dedicate enough time to this process. And please reach out if you have any questions or if you'd like me to take a look at something preliminarily before you submit it. Feel free. My email is always open. And other than that, have a great week. I can't wait to read this. It's sort of like the dress rehearsal's all over, and this is the main event. And so I'm very excited to read your work. All right. Take care. Have a great week.